The only conversation I remember is them telling my father that, you know, if he didn't sell his house, then they would take the house.
First of all, I think everybody agrees that America needs roads, needs them badly, needs them now. And they ought to be built on a coordinated, comprehensive basis, and the building ought to start.
If you're on a highway, you're probably going through a former black community or an existing black community.
It was a stroke that divided us among a whole lot of other things. It's not just the highway. It's the liquor stores. It's everything else that seems to just come in our community and sit there.
At the time, I was 19 years old and wasn't much concerned with things happening around me. I was young and thought about girls and cars. But one day in October, my dad came and told me that we would have to move because of the highway to nowhere that was coming through. Now, this was my favorite place. This was Arundel's Ice Creams Company, and you could go to the movies on the corner there and then bring your little date down to the ice cream shop. They bore most of the effects of taking those homeowners out of the highway to nowhere. I'd say it's like taking a heart out of a body and the extremities start to die off.
In 1960, Baltimore city planners came up with multiple expressway plans to bring commerce into the downtown area. Only one section of the expressway was built, and it demolished over 3,000 homes.
Highway to Nowhere is 2.5 stretch mile of a highway that the government decided that they wanted to build a shortcut to Baltimore's business district. And this happened in 1968, and it displaced churches, homes, a lot of the affluent black community, and there are highways to nowhere in most cities. So this was intentional.
Mysteriously, after they had taken 1,000 homes in Old West Baltimore, the construction of the road was stopped. And so all of the buildings and other elements that were supposed to be constructed along the roadway also were not constructed. And so the Highway to Nowhere was born as was left as a incomplete road, like in the middle of what otherwise was a vibrant community.
In 1956, the federal government launched one of the largest infrastructure projects in history.
So the 1956 Highway Act was the implementation mechanism for highway planning, basically because of the funding mechanism.
State governments were incentivized to build highways quickly, with the federal government matching 90% of funds with the state's 10%.
Local governments were very anxious to take advantage of it. And to some extent, local governments that were interested in clearing quote-unquote slum areas switched from using urban renewal, which had a less favorable funding match and also less plentiful funds. They switched from using urban renewal to the highway program to accomplish slum clearance. And that might have been part of what influenced the eventual implementation of the Franklin Mulberry Highway to Nowhere.
Highways were not only used to bring commerce to the city, but to clear out so-called undesirable areas, blighted areas, a definition that gave a home the kiss of death and justification for demolition.
So blight is actually a term that was used for produce. It's actually a natural term, meaning that something has some kind of infection or it's going to decay. And then it was taken to be used in the development context to designate a neighborhood and label it as blighted. If we translate it, it could mean vacant and abandoned housing. One might say, why not just say vacant and abandoned housing? But blight is also kind of a judgmental term, and it's an assessment. And just like we say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so is blight.
When someone says it's an urban problem, by and large, they mean it's a black problem. So blight is used in the same way, but when you really dig into the policies that have helped to create and maintain blight, you can see it is a problem of racism, not a problem of race.
After decades of disinvestment, the same communities once called blighted are now at the center of an $85 million redevelopment plan.
This project represents the long-awaited repair for decades of damage, and we cannot risk missteps in miscommunications. Yet we were not consulted in advance of the preparation of the Reconnecting Communities construction grant, and when the $85.5 million grant was awarded, we were left again with no direct communication. Instead, we all learned about it through various news outlets like everyone else.
We're going to vet everything, and for those ideas or concepts that end up falling away, it's our obligation and our duty to explain why those weren't carried forward in an open way too. So we want to hear all voices, and we fully expect that there's going to be, the full range of, ideas that oftentimes will come into conflict with each other.
Our job as stakeholders is also to represent the community and go back to the community and say our interests are being met, through this process.
Long before and after the $85 million redevelopment plan, West Baltimore residents have been working to restore their communities according to their own vision.
When the project Nowhere Highway, all those things first came down the pipe, I had just moved back into the community. So I was very active in a lot of the meetings, the plannings, the charrettes, the da-da-da-da-da's, only to see how with the stroke of a pen, a lot of that went away. So I'm thankful that we're having this coalition come forward.
We are calling for generative development without displacement. We're calling for the work that we see being done by Black Woman Bill, that we see being done by Kiopa, that we see being done by Perry Homes. We're calling for policy to be put in place that supports the residents who exist in these neighborhoods, who live in these neighborhoods, who have kept the neighborhoods alive to be able to expand their vision for how they want to live, how they want to thrive in their homes.